Hi, so I'm the Academic Bean and I also have periods. So what I wanted to talk about in today's video is how to manage your period during exams, because I remember being 15 in the lead up to GCSEs, and one of the things that was on my mind even like months before was what happens if I get my period during the exam. And I think it's something that a lot of people who get periods worry about. So if you've only been having your period for a few years, you may still be finding that it isn't always the most consistent, and that's really common, especially when you're in that like teenage period, no pun intended. If you have chance and you're like 6 months away from the start of your exam season, you might find it helpful to begin tracking your period. So that's writing down when it starts, when it finishes. You can also make notes of how heavy it is, things like that, and that might help you to get a little bit more information and start recognizing patterns to do with your period. It is also important to remember that stress and stressful periods in your life can change the rhythm of your period. So don't be alarmed if your period is not quite on time in the lead up to exams. It might come late. Some people go the entire exam season and then get a very large period at the end. It really depends on you and your body and how your body responds to stress. So be prepared that it might not go as smoothly even if you were being very consistent in those months you were tracking. The next thing I thought I would say is, when thinking about how you're going to handle your period if you get it during exams, you might find it helpful to think about what period products are you normally using. Because if they normally work for you, there's probably no reason to change them. Think about what's comfortable. If you've got time, you can try using pads, tampons, menstrual cups, etc. and see what really works best for you in most situations. If you have back-to-back exams, or maybe a longer exam session like English or history where you're going to be there for maybe 3 hours in a row, you might want to choose a pad which can handle more than your usual flow, just so that you have that extra bit of confidence that you're not going to... In general, you shouldn't be bleeding through pads or other menstrual products in a few hours. It should take a little bit longer than that, but everyone's flow is a little bit different. But if you are finding that you regularly are like heavily bleeding through, you may either need to up the product that you're using. It might be that you're using something for like the lighter days, or if you're finding that even on like 2 or 3 days into your period you're still finding that it's a really heavy flow, you might want to speak to a GP, because heavy flows are not always normal. It could be normal for your body, but it's worth getting checked out. So the next thing is when to change your pad or your other period product. So I would suggest in that little bit of time just before the exam starts, where people go to the toilet, if you're doing like a GCSE exam or an A-level exam, there's normally like everyone gets ready, everyone's getting situated for going into the exam room, and they're normally getting lined up. So just before that, I would recommend replace with a fresh period product. If you're using tampons or internal period products, please check the advice for preventing toxic shock. If you are using them, you're probably quite aware of it, but things can kind of get delayed. So what you don't want to do is put an insertable period product in at the beginning of the day and then be in the exam and be needing to change it. I would recommend changing it a little bit earlier, even if it's not quite been used up, just so you've got a fresh one in. The next thing I want to talk about is pain management. So the first thing I want to say is pain management for periods is very different for a lot of people, and often people who are having periods will kind of tolerate a very large amount of pain even when it's not normal, because you're told, oh, periods are meant to be painful. If you're finding that over-the-counter pain medication is not helping, a hot water bottle is not helping, and you're still getting a lot of pain coming through after that, I would really strongly suggest talking to a GP or another medical professional. The worst thing that's going to happen if nothing's wrong is they'll say, oh, this is actually normal, but we're going to give you some options for managing the pain, and they'll help you that way. Some pain is normal, but if you're in a lot of pain, there are ways that it can be reduced or prevented through medication. For example, birth control can help to regulate your period so that you don't have an excess buildup of your uterine lining. I'm not a medical professional, obviously, but these are just things that you pick up over the course of your life. So I would recommend, if you're in a lot of pain, please see a medical professional sooner rather than later. For the exams, you will probably be unable to have a hot water bottle in the exam unless you're someone who's, in an isolated room, or if it's an exam from home, go crazy, get the water bottle. But what you might be able to have are these adhesive heat pads, which you attach on top of clothing. So if you're in a skirt, you might have tights underneath. You can put it onto the tummy part, put it over the tights, and then have your skirt over the top, so no one needs to know that it's there. And that will give you heat for several hours. And they're normally quite inexpensive, normally like £1, £2 from like Pound World or all of those kind of shops will tend to have them, and also in, you know, big supermarkets tend to have them. But they can be a good option, and they will last for the entirety of the exam a little bit longer. They're also a good option if you're just going to school with period pain. Then you're Number 5, staying hydrated, remembering to eat. Certain teas, especially the herbal ones and iron-rich vegetables, they're often recommended as being very good to eat when you're on your period. My personal opinion is there's no magic vegetables that are going to fix period pains and fix period symptoms completely, but having a variety of vegetables, having a variety of minerals, all of those things that make a diet healthy, they're going to be good for your body in general, and if your body's feeling healthy, it's going to handle your periods a little bit better. Equally, if you are someone who suffers a lot from period acne, often nothing in your diet changing will help that, but it might be if you are eating, you know, incredible amounts of sugar just before your period because you get the cravings, being able to change those out for some slightly healthier options might prevent acne that's being caused by the sugars rather than actual period hormonal acne. If your period does come with more spots or bloating, you might be finding that you feel less confident in your appearance, you might have like some body issues that come around when your period does. And there's lots of different ways to boost your confidence. It might be that you find positive affirmations like saying I look beautiful in the mirror help, or it might be that you just want to mask your spots with concealer, whatever makeup that you normally use. There's no right or wrong way to handle body confidence issues. Do whatever makes you feel most confident in yourself. The exams obviously won't care what you look like, but feeling confident in your appearance may give you a boost and may make you feel, you know, just more happy in yourself when you're sat in the exams, which is obviously going to make a difference. But yeah, there's no right or wrong way to deal with, you know, body positivity in this kind of sense. Just do what's making you feel most comfortable. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with a bit of period acne or bloating. It's completely normal. Yeah, just do what makes you feel better about it. Kind of on a similar vein, if you're someone who gets a lot of period anxiety, maybe you really struggle with getting your period in general, maybe it's a sensory discomfort, maybe it affects your mental health, try reaching out to the people around you for advice. People who are in your family maybe have very similar experiences, often like periods which are very painful. Often if you have painful periods, your mum will have painful periods and your grandma will have had painful periods. So often they know some tricks that can kind of work for you. If it's sensory discomfort, maybe you don't like seeing blood, there are period products out there which will be able to reduce that discomfort. For example, you can get black coloured pads, so when you are changing it, you don't see as much blood. The blood is kind of disguised by the colour, and there's other different options out there for each different. If you are finding that your mental health very seriously dips, either just before your period or after your period or in the middle, you may want to speak to a GP about it if it's something that you're having happen every single time, because it could be that something's not quite right there and they might be able to give you some help. So number 8 is comfortable clothing. So obviously for later in life when you're doing exams, maybe at university, you can wear whatever you want, so just go with something comfy. If you are still at school, it may be that you have to wear a school uniform, and that's going to really limit your options on what clothing you can wear. Within those requirements, it's still a good idea to wear what you're most comfortable in. In general, skirts are going to be less constricting on your stomach, which might be a little bit bloated and might be a little bit tighter than normal. But anything loose fitting, even trousers, will be comfortable. It often recommends that you wear layers because sometimes with your period you can feel hot then cold, and just having that layer is going to give you the option to get warmer. Normally they keep exam rooms at a fairly comfortable temperature, and it's normally in the summer, so keeping water on hand and things like that so that you can cool yourself down. But yeah, just do whatever you can to make yourself comfortable in that moment. But yeah, don't worry too much about. 9, as with any exam, the only thing you can do once you're sat in the hall in that moment is try your best. So even if you've had a bit of a rough morning or a rough afternoon with your period, and the setup isn't quite what you hoped for, and you'd hope that you wouldn't be on your period for the exam and you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed because it doesn't seem to be going right, just do your best. You can still do very well on your exam despite your period. There's been a couple of studies which suggest that your period does, do a slight reduction in how well you're going to do on an exam, but it's not concrete evidence, and there's also studies which say that the period has no effect. So once you're actually in the exam, just do your best. If you did find that you were really affected by the period, you were in a lot of pain, maybe you're someone who suffers with endometriosis, something like that, polycystic ovaries, and you were in just a lot of pain and you couldn't focus at all, there is possibility that you can, speak to the exam board and maybe get a reset, or maybe get some kind of acknowledgement that you're in a lot of pain, that kind of thing. If you are going to go down that route, I think the best thing that you need to do is at the start of the day, when you're starting to feel pain, is make sure you're communicating with the staff around you so that there's some kind of record of it, because you can't just say that you were on your period afterwards, because obviously it could not be true. The next thing is surprise period. If you're in an exam and you feel like your period has just started, speak to a member of staff, speak to an invigilator and ask to use the bathroom. Once you're in the bathroom, you can probably ask for a period product. These things happen. They should have some on standby. If you're worried that they're not going to have them on standby, in the revision weeks, just speak to a member of staff and say, I really think that period products should be available to all students when they go to the bathroom. You might get more pushback depending on where you are in the world, but yeah, period products should be supplied. So that's kind of all the tips I've got for you. Just stay calm. Periods aren't the end of the world, but they can make exams a lot more uncomfortable, and they can really kind of ruin your mood. But hopefully with some of these tips, you'll be able to tackle your period and feel confident in doing it. If you're someone who is in a position where you're struggling to afford period products, I'm going to put some links in the description just of places in the UK are the ones I'm aware of where you can ask for period products and get them supplied to you. Normally schools will supply them to you. Another thing to consider is reusable period products in the long run can be a lot cheaper. So for example, a menstrual cup is around £17 but will last you several years. So if you're paying £2 every period for period pads, kind of after 2 years the menstrual cup is kind of on the same cost depending on how many you're using each time. But the menstrual cup, you can use it for the entirety of your period. It stays clean, you keep rinsing it out, stuff like that. Obviously it's not for everyone. There's also reusable pads where they're normally about £20 for a set at the cheaper end, and you can use those for several years. You just have to rinse them out and wash them in the washing machine with your regular clothes. Obviously that doesn't work if you're someone who's not got access to a washing machine and things like that, but there are different options out there and you might find that more comfortable in general. I hope you found this video helpful. If you do know of any other period product suppliers or other things that are going on near you, feel free to put them in the comments for other people. But yeah, I hope you found this video helpful. Like and subscribe if you feel like it. Goodbye.
Academic Bean.